Continuing from the previous episode 342. Chapter 1271. Separation. Everyone from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe looked at each other after seeing Xiao Yan's group vanishing into the spatial crack line. None of them dared to open their mouth to stop Xiao Yan's group. Elder Huang, are we going to just allow them to leave with the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit? That white-haired man clenched his teeth and spoke with a face that was extremely unwilling. Do you have any solution? Are you going to charge forward and risk your life to fight with that person? It is likely that we will not be able to hurt him even if all of us here end up dying. Huang Zan's heart was currently filled with fury. A duck that had reached his mouth had ended up flying away. Moreover, it had violently gave him 2 slaps before flying away. How could it allow him to be calm? Unexpectedly, that little girl is actually from the ancient Void Dragon tribe. If it is not for her, that Dragon Phoenix origin fruit would have been in the bag of my Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Feng Qing'er clenched her silver teeth gently and said, moreover this time around, the tribe has dispatched so many experts over. If we end up returning in failure. Huang Zan inhaled a couple of deep breaths. Their strength had caused him to calm down. A moment later, his gaze turned. He suddenly turned around and walked towards the corridor. Elder Huang? Feng Qing'er's group was startled when they saw this. Let's go. We will return to the beast spiritual barrier and shift the skeleton of the Heaven Phoenix back. We cannot return empty-handed no matter what. With these things, we can at least block the mouths of some people, regardless of whether it is useful. Huang Zan's expression was gloomy. He waved his sleeve and strided towards the corridor. Feng Qing and the others behind could only follow. Those skeletons had already experienced countless number of years. It had already become waste. It was likely useless even if they were to bring it back. Old Ghost Jai Xing also had a dark and cold expression as he watched the members of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe leaving quickly. His eyes stared at the spot where Xiao Yan's group had disappeared and spoke in a dense voice, Xiao Yan, just you wait. We will meet again soon. At that time, you and the Falling Star Pavilion will be completely destroyed. Old Ghost Jai Xing ceased remaining any longer after his vicious voice sounded. He turned his body and rushed towards the exit of the remains. The space on a mountain top that was 50 kilometers from the Bone Mountain range suddenly fluctuated. Immediately, a dark black spatial crack line suddenly appeared. Numerous figures rushed out from within it. Thank you Elder He Qing for your help. Xiao Yan cupped his hands towards the strong large man and laughed after having landed his feet on the mountain top. It's nothing. Before I left, those old fellows from the tribe has instructed me to thank you for taking care of Ziyan during these years. My ancient Void Dragon tribe will return this favor to you if we have the chance. He Qing waved his hand and said, Elder He Qing is too polite. I view Ziyan like a younger sister. Taking care of her is something that I ought to do. Xiao Yan spoke in a solemn manner. He was unaware that the latter would have such a status when he was acquainted with Ziyan back then. At that time, he completely felt that this girl was cute and suit his taste. It was this reason that he had taken great care of her. This girl's status is a little special. She is exceptionally important to my tribe. Therefore nothing much happened to her. You were able to safely bring her to the Central Plains and allowed her to contact the tribe. This can be considered a great favor to us. He Qing glanced at Ziyan by the side before shaking his head and said, All right, I will not talk to you about this matter. He Qing here and He Qing there, even I feel irritated. In any case, the ancient Void Dragon tribe will return you a favor in the future. This place is some distance away from the Bone Mountain range. At that time, all of you only need to head east and you can leave the Beast region. However, Ziyan must return with me to the tribe this time around. Why? I will not return. That place is not the least bit fun. Ziyan knitted her bent eyebrows. She shook her head as though it was some great matter. It is useless to tell me this. This time around, it is an order issued by those old fellows. They said that you have had enough fun. You have yet to complete the ancient dragon inheritance. This time around, you must complete the inheritance before you can come out. Moreover, you have currently discovered the Dragon Phoenix origin fruit. You are also needed to handle this thing. He Qing spread his hand and said. Ziyan's small face was filled with bitterness as well as an unwillingness. With your current strength, you will only be his burden if you follow beside Xiao Yan. You might end up burdening them until something unexpected happens one day. This is not something that you are happy to see, right? He Qing smilingly said, Once you complete the inheritance, your strength will definitely soar. At that time, no one will stop you from coming out. You can come and find Xiao Yan's group and can even truly help them. Ziyan was startled when she heard this. She immediately lowered her head in a dispirited manner and said, "All right, you win. I will return with you." Xiao Yan glanced at He Qing. This fellow might appear rough, but he was also quite cunning. His words had struck directly on Ziyan's weak spot, causing her to have no choice but to summit. He Qing appeared to have sensed Xiao Yan's thoughts. He parted his mouth and smiled at him. After which, his gaze turned towards Shangzan and said, "This big fellow should also leave with B. Ancient Dragon Bear. Back then, it is also a tribe affiliated with our ancient Void Dragon. Follow me back and you will obtain quite a great amount of benefit." I will listen to Elder He Qing's orders." Shangzan rubbed his head and laughed in a silly manner. He was unable to form any resistance in front of a matured ancient Void Dragon. "In that case, we should separate here." Xiao Yan cupped his hands together and smilingly said, "Ziyan, you should train properly." Little Fairy Doctor rubbed Ziyan's head and smilingly said. The latter could only nod her head dispiritedly. Before I leave, I should remind you to be careful of the Hall of Soul. Currently, all of you can be considered to be enemies with them. You should be more careful. Do not allow yourself to land in their hands." He Qing nodded, hesitated for a moment and suddenly said, "My father is still in their hands. I must rescue him no matter what." Xiao Yan softly replied. He Qing was startled. He immediately nodded quietly and said, "In the case, I shall not say any more. Let's say our goodbyes here." After saying this, the space around He Qing became distorted. A spatial crack line once again appeared. "Let's go." He Qing waved his hand, turned around and entered the crack line. Shangzan followed closely behind. Ziyan walked at the back and watched Xiao Yan's group with some reluctance. She clenched her small hand tightly and spoke in a serious manner. "Xiao Yan, I will definitely be stronger than you the next time I come out. At that time, you will have to refine pills for me to eat every day." "Ha ha!" Ziyan laughed in a lovely and silly manner towards the end. After which, she ceased remaining any longer. She turned around and walked into the spatial crack line. Kai! That crack line emitted a Kai sound and swiftly disappeared after Ziyan entered the spatial crack line. Xiao Yan had some feeling of melancholy as he watched the spot where Ziyan's group had disappeared. With this little girl missing, it appeared that there would be a lot less joy around him. "Let's go. We have completed our mission successfully this time around. The soul baby fruit is in our hands. There is finally a solution to the problem of the teacher's soul." After being depressed for a moment, Xiao Yan once again braced himself. He waved his hand and laughed out loud. After which, he leapt and rushed to the midair, transforming into a ray of light that swiftly bolted away from the beast region. Little Fairy Doctor and the rest also quickly followed from behind. The gains from this trip to the ancient remains this time around had far exceeded Xiao Yan's group expectations. Not only did they successfully obtain the soul baby fruit, but they had even luckily obtained that extremely precious pill beast. If this thing was groomed properly, it would sooner or later advance into the true Tier 9 level. At that time, it would really be able to revive people, change their lives and other inconceivable magical effect. Of course, the greatest gain was naturally the 3 ribs that had been removed from the Do Sheng skeleton. Those 3 ribs hid the true Tien class Do skill. However, the current Xiao Yan did not have the time to immediately decipher it. Everything can only be carefully studied once they return to the Falling Star Pavilion. Currently, they had offended the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the 9 Serene Deep Ground Python tribe, these 2 largest tribes within the Beast region. These factions possessed many ears and eyes within the Beast region. Hence, Xiao Yan's group did not dare to remain in this place for long. After separating with He Qing's group, they directly rushed out of the Beast region by traveling over the night. With this rapid traveling speed of theirs, they had completely left the territory of the Beast region within just a day. After leaving the area of the Beast region, Xiao Yan first thought of a way to transmit some information to Mu Qing Luan's group, which was still remaining in the Beast region awaiting news. After which, he led the group and made the journey back to the Falling Star Pavilion. An elderly figure was seated on a large rock at the top of the mountain behind the Falling Star Pavilion. The old man's figure was a little illusory. However, there was a vast and mighty spiritual pressure vaguely spreading from it. No one else within this falling star pavilion, other than Yao Lao, possessed such a mighty spiritual strength. Old fellow, I have already secretly made contact with some old demons, who have quite a good relationship with you back then. They had replied that as long as you are able to recover your strength, they will be a guest official of the Falling Star Pavilion. A green-robed Feng Zun Jie laughed from behind Yao Lao. If I am able to recover my peak strength, the Falling Star Pavilion will possess a strength that the Hall of Soul will have to take seriously. With the security guaranteed, they will naturally be willing to. Yao Lao smiled and did not feel surprise. Feng Zun Jie nodded slightly. He mused for a moment and said, "It has been a period of time since Xiao Yan's group has headed to the Beast region. I wonder if the Soul Baby fruit has been obtained. It is rumored that quite a number of experts had been attracted to the remains this time around. You can be rest assured." Yao Lao smiled faintly. He slowly opened his shut eyes and looked towards the entrance of the Star Realm. A slight ripple had appeared at that spot. Feng Zun Jie was startled when he saw Yao Lao's great confidence in Xiao Yan. Immediately, he followed the latter's eyes and looked over, only to see that the space there was slowly being opened. A couple of familiar figures were slowly walking in. From the looks of it, it was Xiao Yan's group, who had returned to the Falling Star Pavilion in a tired manner. "Old fellow, congratulations. Your hope is about to be fulfilled." Feng Zun Jie smiled a little. He softly spoke in an envious voice, "You have found a good disciple. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Continuing from the previous episode 343. Chapter 1272. Mysterious tattoo. Xiao Yan's body slowly landed on the top of the back mountain. He looked at Yao Lao, who was seated on a large stone and smiling at him. Cupping his hands together, he said, "We have fulfilled our expectations." Feng Zun Jie by the side involuntarily let out a heavy sigh when he heard these words of Xiao Yan. He lifted a thumb towards Xiao Yan and laughed. "Good. Are you all right?" Yao Lao smilingly inquired. It can be summarized to have been full of surprises but no danger. Xiao Yan spread his hand and summarized the matter within the remains. "It is the Hall of Soul again." Yao Lao nodded slightly. A chillness surged within his eyes. Xiao Yan smiled. He flicked his finger and a wooden box appeared in his hand. After which, the wooden box was suspended in the sky before gently landing in front of Yao Lao. It was automatically opened. Golden light shot out of it before revealing that baby-like golden fruit within the box. It is indeed the Soul Baby fruit. Moreover, it is the best quality golden grade Soul Baby fruit. Even with Yao Lao's calmness, his eyes involuntarily displayed some joy when he saw this golden fruit. Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. The Soul Baby fruit had two grades. They were the silver grade Soul Baby fruit and the golden grade Soul Baby fruit. The former was of a lower quality while the latter had a stronger medicinal effect. The Soul Baby fruit that Xiao Yan had found within the ancient forest was the latter type. With this golden grade Soul Baby fruit, it is likely that all of the essence spiritual aura that you have exhausted will be completely replenished. Feng Zun Jie fondled his beard and laughed. "Teacher, you should undertake a retreat today and try to replenish your essence spiritual aura as quickly as you can. That way, we can begin to refine a body," Xiao Yan said. Yao Lao nodded slightly. His eyes looked towards Xiao Yan before he spoke softly. "Little fellow, do you miss your father?" Xiao Yan was startled when he heard Yao Lao suddenly speaking about this manner. Immediately, he became silent. He pressed his lips tightly and a deep guilt was present within his eyes. Xiao Zan was his father. The same bloodline flowed within their bones. The latters doted on him greatly when he was young. Even during the time when he was at the lowest point of his life, that love did not diminish because of any reason. This was because they were father and son. The two simple words represented a blood relation that nothing could remove. If he counted the time that his father had fallen into the hands of the Hall of Soul was even longer than Yao Lao being here. When his father was captured back then, Xiao Yan was merely a tender youth, who charged up the misty cloud mountain with his stomach filled with anger. Xiao Zan had a great expectation for Xiao Yan since the latter was young. He ultimately believed that Xiao Yan would change the Xiao clan and allow this clan, which was continuously declining, to truly become powerful. The current Xiao Yan had already become a renowned top-tier expert in the Central Plains. With his Dozun class strength, It was sufficient for him to become a legendary-like existence within the Jia Ma Empire. From a certain point of view, it appeared that he had reached the expectations Xiao Zhan had of him back then. Unfortunately, the latter was unable to see his son's soaring moment. I will rescue my father. This is my promise to elder brother and second brother. I do not have the face to return and see them if I cannot rescue father. Xiao Yan softly said. His voice was a little hoarse. This large mountain known as the Hall of Soul had been pressing on his shoulders since he was a tender youth. Fortunately, it did not cause him to collapse. Instead, he had grown rapidly under this kind of pressure until he had reached this stage today. Teacher will help you, even if the price is this old life of mine. Yao Lao gently patted Xiao Yan's shoulder and laughed. If your father is aware that the little boy back then had already become an independent expert, it is likely that he will be very happy. Xiao Yan smiled. He blinked his eyes and endured the somewhat sour feeling. He immediately asked, is teacher aware of where father is being imprisoned in the Central Plains? It is not anywhere in the Central Plains. Yao Lao shook his head and said. Xiao Yan was startled when he heard this. He frowned and asked, what do you mean? I am also uncertain why the Hall of Soul values your father so greatly. I can only guess that it should be because of the ancient jade that is with you. Yao Lao knitted his brows slightly and said, the Jiyu clan has the Jiyu realm while the strength and foundation of the Hall of Soul is not inferior to the Jiyu clan. Teacher, you mean, the Hall of Soul can also create their own realm? Xiao Yan was slightly startled as he said, Soul realm. Yao Lao nodded gently and replied softly, however, those experts who are aware of the Soul realm are only a few even in the Central Plains. As for the entrance to the Soul realm, even I am not aware of it. My father has been imprisoned in the Soul realm? Xiao Yan demanded in a deep voice. Yes. The fist under Xiao Yan's sleeves tightened slightly. His finger gently rubbed his storage ring. An ancient jade with an ancient aura quietly appeared in his hand. She ancient god's jade, the target of the Hall of Soul. However, was unable to sense just what use this thing was after having possessed it for so many years. Other than when he was training deep under the tower of the Jianan Academy back then when this ancient jade showed some unusual activity, it had never appeared for a second time even after so many years. The Hall of Soul faction is huge and mysterious. Based on my investigation, it is rumored that the Hall of Soul had another name a long time ago. Yao Lao narrowed his eyes slightly and softly said, Hun Clan. Hun Clan? The hand, which Xiao Yan was using to hold the ancient jade, trembled. He said, could it have been passed down from the ancient times just like the Jiyu clan? I am not too certain about this, however, that little girlfriend of yours might be aware of some news. Yao Lao shook his head and sighed. The more he came into contact with the Hall of Soul, the more he sensed the mysteriousness and unusualness of this faction that was intertwined across the continent. Xuan Xiao Yan nodded slightly. I can only tell you this much. However, regardless of how the relationship between you and the Hall of Soul will become, teacher will ultimately stand behind you, even if I have to stake this old life of mine. Yao Lao smiled slightly. He patted Xiao Yan's shoulders. After which, he held the wooden box, placed his hands behind him and slowly walked down the mountain. Xiao Yan smiled as he watched Yao Lao's and Feng Zunjie's back. He inhaled a deep breath and looked towards the sky. A determination gradually surged up his face. Father, regardless of how powerful the Hall of Soul is, I will still rescue you. Wait for me. Yao Lao chose to quickly undertake a retreat after having obtained the soul baby fruit. Only if his essence spiritual aura was replenished would he be able to truly regain his peak strength. Moreover, he might even possess the potential and hope of advancing to the Do Sheng class in the future. After Yao Lao undertook a retreat, Xiao Yan group had first rested for a couple of days. Mu Qing Luan and the others had hurriedly rushed back to the Falling Star Pavilion during these few days. They heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that the mission was successful. After resting for a couple of days and regaining his peak strength, Xiao Yan once again had a headache. This time around, his headache was due to the poison within Qing Lin's body. The Emperor Python heart-eroding poison was an extremely famous poison on the Central Plains. This type of poison was rumored to be without antidote. However, Xiao Yan had also said that there was no poison without an antidote in this world. It was just that the antidote had not been found. Due to this, He had buried his head in the many medicine books that Yao Lao had left behind. He had even borrowed the 7-colored poison book that little fairy doctor had obtained back then to study. Although this lethal poison gave him a headache, it was fortunate that the heavens rewarded those who put in the effort. After searching for 4 to 5 days in this complete darkness, Xiao Yan had finally groped a method to remove the poison. There was a quiet and cool mountain cave in the back mountain of the Falling Star Pavilion. At the middle of the cave was a small pool that was built with stones. At this moment, clear water was bubbling within the pool. It appeared as though the pool was boiling. Xiao Yan would occasionally take out some medicinal powder or liquid as he stood by the side of the pool. After which, he would pour them into the pool. The clear water within the pool had gradually turned into a pale red color. Only then did he stop. He flipped his hand and a small jade bottle flashed and appeared. The interior of the jade bottle contained a rich substance like pure energy. OWW. Seeing this jade bottle, the snow-white small beast in Xiao Yan's chest immediately let out a groan. Currently, the expression of the little bast was extremely sluggish. Even its fur had become paler. It caused one to feel a heartache when looking at it. Rest assured that I will compensate you after this. Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. He took out a couple of pills from his storage ring and stuffed them into the mouth of the pill beast. Only then did the latter recover a little. Xiao Yan sighed in relief when he saw this. He had really spent a great effort in order to get this fellow to contribute some blood. Blup blup. The jade bottle was tilted and the silver liquid slowly dripped downwards. Finally, it landed in the pool. Immediately, an ear-piercing sizzling sound was emitted. After the liquid was dripped into it, a wave of extremely pure energy ripple immediately spread out from within the pool. Qing Lin, remove your clothes and enter the pool. If you can absorb all of these energy, it should be able to completely stabilize your strength at the Do Zun class. Xiao Yan kept the jade bottle, turned his head and smilingly spoke to Qing Lin by the side. Qing Lin was initially startled when she heard this. A bright redness immediately surfaced on her face. I understand. Xiao Yan also smiled when he saw this manner of hers. He turned around and said, due to the need to always add various medicinal powder, I'm afraid that I cannot leave. Yes. Qin Ling's face was red as she acknowledged in an ant-like voice. After which, she quickly removed her clothes. With a splash, she had leapt into the small pool in an agile manner. Xiao Yan turned his head only after hearing the sound was water splashing. His gaze looked towards the pool, only to see Qin Ling revealing only her head above the water. Her long hair became wet and adhered onto her face, adding an alluring enchantment to her. Enter your training state and absorb the medicinal strength within the pool. Xiao Yan spoke gently. The embarrassment and anxiety in Qin Ling's heart gradually weakened a little when she heard this soft and gentle voice of Xiao Yan. She stabilized her mind as she shut both of her eyes and slowly entered into her training mode. Xiao Yan smiled slightly when he saw Qin Ling successfully entering her training state. He was just about to get up when his eyes suddenly landed on the smooth back that Qin Ling exposed over the surface of the water. When the water fog of the pool rose, a mysterious tattoo also vaguely appeared on her back. This tattoo appeared just like an entrenched large python if one was to look at it carefully. However, this large python appeared to possess 9 heads. During the time that Xiao Yan was observing the mysterious tattoo in a stunned manner, the shut snake eyes of one head of the 9-headed snake were suddenly opened at this moment. Immediately, a brutal feeling surged within Xiao Yan's heart without forewarning, causing his eyes to immediately turn blood red. Who? Xiao Yan became cautious after the brutalness appeared for an instant. His body swiftly pulled back and his eyes also hurriedly turned away from that tattoo. Xiao Yan's eyes gradually recovered to normal after shifting his eyes away. He gently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His heart was filled with shock. Why was there such a ferocious thing on Qing Lin's body? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 344. Chapter 1273. Ancient Heaven Serpent Xiao Yan finally sighed in relief as the gradual disappearance of the brutal feeling within his heart. He hesitated for a moment before his eyes once again carefully turned towards Qing Lin's back. This time, however, he was much more careful. He locked his mind and a purple-brown flame slowly spread from within his body. The mysterious tattoo on Qing Lin's smooth back within the faint rise hot fog of the pool also became partially visible. The snake eyes of the nine-headed snake were once again shut. Hence, the kind of unexpected change from earlier did not appear once again. Xiao Yan knitted his brows slightly. He focused intently on the mysterious tattoo. The tattoo should be quite big, as only a portion of the nine-headed snake's body was revealed above the surface of the water. Clearly, its curled body was still under the water. Xiao Yan focused on this mysterious nine-headed snake. His heart felt quite lost. He had never heard of a magical beast of such a shape in this current continent. Moreover, from the fierce aura that seemed to spread from this magical beast that caused him to be without any defense when he was caught off guard, it was obvious that this was not an ordinary magical beast. This thing, just what exactly it is? Xiao Yan knitted his brows tightly. However, he was still at a loss a moment later. This strange shape, even a 9 serene deep-ground python did not look like this, no? Xiao Yan could only helplessly shake his head and suppress his doubt within his heart after thinking for a long time in a futile manner. When Qing Lin wakes up, he could ask her. She should be aware of the exact situation. This thought flashed across Xiao Yan's heart, and he also ceased these futile thoughts. He glanced at the color within the pool and once again took out a small jade bottle from his storage ring. He poured out some pale red liquid from within. Attempting to completely remove the Emperor Python heart-eroding poison from Qing Lin's body involved quite a complicated process. Fortunately, Xiao Yan was currently considered a true alchemist guru. Should it be someone else, it was likely that the person might really not possess the ability to help Qing Lin remove the poison. Although Xiao Yan was clearly aware that attempting to get rid of the Emperor Python heart-eroding poison was extremely troublesome and time-exhausting, he did not expect that he would spend 4 days. Xiao Yan had remained within the cave during these 4 days. The number of medicinal ingredients that had been thrown into the pool had numbered to over a couple hundred. A frighteningly pure energy permeated the pool. Finally, even the fog itself became viscous. Although time and medicinal ingredients were greatly exhausted, Qing Lin's expression had become increasingly lively under the hot rising energy fog. The slight black vapor that remained between one's brows had also gradually scattered. All of these indicated that the Emperor Python heart-eroding poison within her body was swiftly being removed. During these few days that Xiao Yan had taken care of the poison removal within Qing Lin's body, Xiao Yan had also paid attention to the mysterious tattoo on her back. After a couple of days of observation, he discovered that there seemed to be an increasing amount of energy being poured into Qing Lin's body. That mysterious 9-headed snake tattoo had also become increasingly clear. Even the snake eyes of the 9 heads had slowly opened a little. It was this slight opening of the snake eyes that would cause Xiao Yan to unwittingly sense a trace of violence being spread within his heart. Fortunately, his mental strength was strong and he could ignore the effects of the unusual 9-headed snake. After experiencing these changes, Xiao Yan also became increasingly curious towards the mysterious tattoo. This thing ought to be something from the ancient times. However, it was likely that the current Doqi continent no longer had such a magical beast. Otherwise, Xiao Yan would definitely have at least heard something about it. While Xiao Yan was curious, he also understood that the most important thing was to resolve the poison within Qing Lin's body first. Hence, he calmed his heart and continued to wait. This kind of bitter care continued for 3 days more before those eyes of Qing Lin, which had been shut for 7 days, finally showed some activity. Blub blub, the faint red pool water continued to emit water bubbles within the pool. Hot air rose and one could vaguely see a lovely graceful figure. During these 10 years, the little girl from back then had already become a vibrant and alluring person. Xiao Yan sat on a rock beside the pool. His shut eyes were also slowly opened. He could sense that a slight unusual activity had appeared within the pool at this moment. Is it about to complete? Xiao Yan softly muttered to himself. He suddenly heard a splashing water sound being emitted from the pool. Immediately, he became stunned and was just about to stand up when the entire cave suddenly shook intensely. What happened? Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly stood up and his eyes paused on the pool that was covered by fog. The activity was emitted from that spot. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. He stared intently at the interior of the pool. There seemed to be an enormous outline that was vaguely visible within the fog. Xiao Yan frowned slightly as he sensed this kind of unusual change. The dou qi within his body was circulated rapidly. The spreading energy fog suddenly wiggled when the dou qi was being circulated within Xiao Yan's body. Immediately, a head-sized strange eye appeared out of nowhere. 3 small dots were enlarged within the eye that was filled with green light. Finally, they transformed into 3 demonic-like emerald flowers that surrounded the eyes and rotated rapidly. Triple jade green snake flower pupils. Xiao Yan's heart tightened immediately upon seeing the appearance of the demonic eye. His body suddenly rushed backward in a reflex-like action. Puff! Xiao Yan's body had just pulled back when that demonic eye suddenly exploded. An enormous figure rushed out from within the pool. It pounced towards Xiao Yan with lightning-like speed. Xiao Yan immediately inhaled a breath of cold air as he looked at the enormous figure that pounced over. It was an enormous snake that possessed 9 savage snakeheads. The body of the snakehead was dark red in color. It was just like fresh blood that had been sedimented for a countless number of years. At a glance, a ferocious aura that was difficult to describe spread out from it. The enormous snake shook its 9 ferocious heads. The 18 demonic eyes of the snakehead had actually become blood red in color at this moment. Moreover, the most mysterious thing was that the interior of these blood-red eyes was actually the same as the triple jade green snake flower pupils that Qing Lin used. Xiao Yan focused intently on the 9-headed snake that charged over explosively towards him. His eyes flicked. A moment later, he suddenly cried out sternly when the snake was about to pounce onto his body, "Qing Lin!" This cry of Xiao Yan was accompanied by Do Qi. It was just like a thunder that exploded within the cave, causing the cave to shake violently. The enormous body of the 9-headed snake also trembled under this cry. A struggling expression suddenly surfaced within its blood-red eyes. A moment later, the blood redness actually rapidly faded. An emerald green color slowly recovered. Following the appearance of that jade green color, the enormous body of the 9-headed snake suddenly erupted into a wave of powerful glow. Its body also shrunk rapidly. Immediately, it transformed into a small body that violently fell from the midair. Xiao Yan's body flashed when he saw Qing Lin's body falling. He grabbed the tiny waist of Qing Lin. That soft, boneless feeling caused his heart to fluctuate a little. He hurriedly calmed his mind before looking at Qing Lin, who was awakening in a lost manner, and said, "Are you all right?" Qing Lin, who was slowly opening her eyes, looked at Xiao Yan, who was within close proximity. She was initially startled. The feeling that was transmitted from her body caused her face to redden with a thump sound. She hurriedly escaped from Xiao Yan's hand and hid behind a stone pillar with a flash. Xiao Yan involuntarily rubbed his nose when he heard the shuffling sound that was emitted from behind the stone pillar. He felt a little embarrassed. Only after Qing Lin wore her clothes did she walk out from behind the stone pillar with a reddened face. Xiao Yan coughed dryly when he saw her fiery red earlobes. He hurriedly asked with a serious expression, "What happened back then?" "That thing." Qing Lin was startled when she heard this. Immediately, she crossed her small hands together and spoke timidly, "That is the soul of the ancient heaven serpent." Ancient heaven serpent? Xiao Yan was stunned. He had heard of the ancient heaven serpent. It was rumored that this was one of the ancient snake magical beast ancestors. It possessed the ability to destroy the world. It was rumored that it was a magical beast that could be considered on the same level as the ancient heaven phoenix. However, the number of this ancient heaven serpent was smaller than even the heaven phoenix. Hence, it had been extinct since the ancient times. There was even less need to mention about it now. That is not right. I remember that the ancient books do not mention that this ancient heaven serpent possesses 9 heads. This is a mutated ancient heaven serpent. I am also unaware of why it is like this. When I have arrived at the Central Plains back then, I had accidentally entered an ancient mountain range and found the skeleton of an ancient heaven serpent. In my curiosity, I end up using the triple jade green snake flower pupils. How could I expect that I would actually summon a spiritual body? Qing Lin's small face was bitter as she said, "It is very difficult to tame this thing. It does not listen to me even though I have used the triple jade green snake flower pupils. At times, it will come out and cause trouble. Fortunately, with the increase in my strength, the resistance of this thing is also becoming increasingly weak. It is likely that I will easily be able to control it very soon." Xiao Yan's face was stunned. Controlling a mutated ancient heaven serpent? This thing, it was an existence that was comparable to the ancient heaven phoenix. Should it grow in the future, it would even be able to fight against an elite Do Sheng. Didn't you say that your triple jade green snake flower pupils is unable to control those snake-form magical beasts that possess an ancient bloodline? If this ancient heaven serpent possessed a body, I will indeed be unable to control it. However, this fellow is merely a spirit. Moreover, it is not that I have taken the initiative to control it. Instead, it wishes to stay on me. Qing Lin spoke helplessly. There are only two types of top-tier snake-form magical beasts that truly possess a royal bloodline during the ancient times. One is the ancient heaven serpent while the other is the heaven-swallowing python. The current 9 serene deep-ground python is merely their descendants. Heaven-swallowing python? Xiao Yan lifted his eyebrows almost immediately when he heard this name. He seemed to remember that after Kai Lin's evolution, she appeared to be a 7-colored heaven-swallowing python. The poison within your body should have been resolved, right? Xiao Yan shook his head, glanced at Qing Lin and asked. Qing Lin nodded. She smilingly said, currently, my strength has also reached that of a 1-star Do Zun. If I use the triple jade green snake flower pupils, it is likely that I would be able to control a snake-form magical beast that has reached the strength of a 4-star Do Zun. Xiao Yan involuntarily shook his head helplessly when he heard this. This girl's triple jade green snake flower pupils was indeed too frightening. Even without mentioning its ability to control snake-form magical beast, just smoothly controlling that ancient heaven serpent's spirit alone in the future would definitely greatly strengthen her fighting strength. Since the poison has been resolved, let's leave. Xiao Yan waved his hand. He turned his body and walked towards the exit of the cave. Since Qing Lin's problem was resolved, it should be time to begin refining a body for Yao Lao. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 345. Chapter 1274. Tian Class Do Techniques. Yao Lao sat on the leader's seat in the spacious large hall. His eyes were shut. Vast and mighty spiritual strength vibrated around his body, causing the surrounding space to form some slight distortion. The current Yao Lao might not have a much greater spiritual strength than before, but the fluctuating spiritual strength gave one a feeling of being filled with life. It appeared as though it possessed an even greater liveliness than the spiritual strength of the past. Teacher, is it possible for you to replenish your essence spiritual aura? Xiao Yan, who had received the news, hurriedly walked into the large hall. His eyes glanced at Yao Lao on the leader's seat. With his current ability, Xiao Yan was naturally able to sense the change in Yao Lao's current spiritual strength. Immediately, he spoke in a joyous manner. Yao Lao slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Xiao Yan, who was swiftly walking over before smiling and nodding his head. He said, the golden grade soul baby fruit's medicinal effect is unexpectedly strong. My essence spiritual aura has once again recovered to the peak. Then the matter of refining a body can begin, right? Xiao Yan spoke somewhat anxiously. Refining a body still requires various different ingredients. Yao Lao smilingly replied, you can rest assured. This disciple has already gathered all these ingredients during these years. Xiao Yan smilingly said. He flicked his finger and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. A dragon eye large medicinal pill was rotating and dripping. A pill fragrance that was so rich, it was impossible to recover, spread out from within it. This caused one's mind to be braced. This is Tier 8 medicinal pill? A surprise immediately surfaced in Feng Zunjie's eyes as he said when he looked at the medicinal pill. Yes, moreover, it is a Tier 8 medicinal pill that has experienced 5 pill lightning. Yao Lao nodded slowly. He immediately revealed the number of pill lightning colors that this medicinal pill had experienced. Immediately, he looked at Xiao Yan in a pleased manner and said, your alchemist skill has not been neglected during these years. Ha ha, old fellow, you can rest assured about this. Xiao Yan is also a pill-gathering champion. He is not any lousier than you when you were young. Feng Zunjie fondled his beard and laughed out loud. Teacher, this is the bone-growing blood-fusing pill. Xiao Yan's finger was gently flicked onto the jade bottle and the latter slowly drifted in front of Yao Lao. Immediately, Xiao Yan took out another transparent jade bottle again. There was a couple of green-red drops of blood within the jade bottle. A frighteningly pure energy spread from within it. This is the essence blood of a heaven demon phoenix. It might lack in quantity, but it will be of big use. Xiao Yan smilingly said. This was naturally the essence blood that Xiao Yan had refined from the heaven demon phoenix bones back then. As for a skeleton, I have one that belongs to the peak of the Dozong class. Xiao Yan waved his hand randomly. A corpse that was sealed in ice appeared within the large hall. The only one amongst these three ingredients that Xiao Yan was dissatisfied with was this skeleton. If it was in the past, he might feel a little joy at the skeleton of someone at the peak of the Dozong class. However, with the rise in his level, a skeleton of such a strength was no longer able to attract Xiao Yan's notice. KK, if it is a skeleton, I do have one that belongs to a 4-star Dozun here. Feng Zun by the side laughed. He waved his sleeve and a coffin landed on the ground. There was a pale gray skeleton within the coffin. A faint fluorescence was flowing over the body of the skeleton. This is an enemy of mine in the past. He subsequently died in my hands. I was afraid that no one would deal with his corpse, so I ended up helping him keep it. Xiao Yan was involuntarily a little speechless when he heard Feng Zun's casual tone. It seemed that Feng Zun possessed quite a great enmity with this person. Otherwise, he would not deal with the other person's corpse. All of these three ingredients are of top quality. The materials that we refine from them should be able to allow Yao Chen to recover to his previous peak strength. However, I wonder if he will be able to break through the Dozun class and reach the Do Sheng class. Feng Zun fondled his beard and voiced his thoughts. Difficult. Yao Lao shook his head. Dozun and Do Sheng were two completely different levels. An elite Dozun could be considered a true top-tier expert in the continent. A Do Sheng, on the other hand, stood at the peak of a golden pagoda. Given the foundation of the Central Plains, elite Dozuns could be considered few, but they were not especially rare. However, an elite Do Sheng was entirely different. Just take Xiao Yan as an example. Despite him having arrived at the Central Plains for so many years, he had yet to meet a genuine elite Do Sheng. Of course, the precondition of this was that one did not include the Do Sheng skeleton that Xiao Yan had met in the ancient remains. That thing merely had a little remnant elite Do Sheng spirit. It could not be considered a true expert. Even though this was the case, the skeleton that had lost traces of life caused Xiao Yan, Old Ghost Jai Xing and the other experts to appear extremely miserable. They nearly ended up falling in an unexpected situation. Through this case, it was possible to vaguely observe just how frightening a genuine Do Sheng was. That level truly possessed the great might to destroy the heavens and earth. Since the ingredients are all gathered, we should act tomorrow. The earlier Yao Chen recovers his peak strength, the less the Falling Star Pavilion needs to worry about the revenge by the Hall of Soul. A branch hall of the Hall of Soul was destroyed and it was taken advantage of within the ancient remains. Given the way the Hall of Soul does things, it would definitely not easily swallow such a great loss. Feng Zun voiced his thoughts. Yes. Xiao Yan and Yao Lao nodded. Currently, everything might appear calm, but it was obvious that this was the calm before the storm. After deciding with Yao Lao on the time to refine a body, Xiao Yan returned to his quarters due to it being late. Once he returned to his room, he sat on the bed and mused for a moment. He flipped his hand and 3 jade white ribs appeared within his palm. The 3 ribs were naturally those that Xiao Yan had ripped from the skeleton. Inside it hid the secrets of the Tien class Do technique. However, ever since he returned to the Falling Star Pavilion, he had yet to carefully observe it due to him busily removing the poison from Qing Lin. After hearing Feng Zun mention the matter of the Hall of Soul taking revenge soon, his heart had also become a little pressured. When faced with such a large faction, he must ultimately raise his own combat strength. The best method to raise one's fighting strength was naturally to practice high-class Do techniques. The legendary Tien-class Do technique was very strong. Even at this moment, Xiao Yan was unable to forget the terrifying strength that was created when the Do Sheng skeleton had unleashed the Tien-class Do technique back then. The ribs felt cool when it entered Xiao Yan's hands. It did not possess the kind of rough feeling of a bone. Instead, it appeared just like a perfect jade when one touched it, appearing smooth and cool, giving one an extremely wonderful feeling. The ribs were covered by tiny mysterious characters. These characters were unusually mysterious. It gave one an obscure feeling. Xiao Yan carefully observed the 3 ribs in detail. He remembered those mysterious characters in his mind, but he was unable to decipher them. Looks like an ordinary method will not be able to open these ribs. Xiao Yan's face revealed an expression of deep thought. A moment later, he placed the ribs gently on his forehead. Spiritual strength spread out. However, it was directly reflected back when it touched the ribs. Xiao Yan was immediately startled before he sighed in relief. There is actually a seal on the surface of the bone. Xiao Yan clenched his hand after he had this thought. Purple-brown flame curled and rose from his palm. After which, it wrapped around 3 white jade-like ribs. A frightening temperature swiftly caused the air within the room to become dry. Sizzle, sizzle. The frightening flame crazily grilled the bone. However, this seemingly weak bone did not move even a little. Its color did not even change a little. Xiao Yan was not surprised at this situation. If it was so easy to break a seal placed by an elite Do Sheng, it would appear far too much like child's play. Xiao Yan maintained a calm mood. He steadily allowed the 3000 lotus heart flame to continue grilling the 3 ribs. He slowly shut his eyes and actually directly entered his training mode. The purple-brown flame burned fiercely within the room. The 3 ribs within it also vaguely emitted a faint glow. This grilling continued from the evening to late into the night, lasting for nearly 10 hours. Under the crazy burning by the 3000 lotus heart flame, the 3 ribs gradually changed a little. The kind of jade-white color also slowly became pale. A kind of deep dark golden color replaced it. If one was to look carefully, one would find a strange ripple quietly spreading under the golden light. Kai! A strange sound of flowing liquid was suddenly emitted from within the quiet room. Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes were also slowly opened at this moment. His eyes looked towards the flame in front of him before becoming startled. The flame at this moment no longer had any traces of the ribs within. Only a strange dark golden liquid remained. The liquid slowly flowed within the flame. It appeared to possess its own intelligence and would occasionally gather into various strange shapes. Was this the manner after the seal has been opened? Xiao Yan muttered softly. He hesitated for a moment before inhaling a deep breath of somewhat dry air. His hand was gently extended. After which, it reached into the flame and paused for a moment. Finally, a finger was inserted into the dark golden liquid. Sizzle, sizzle. Xiao Yan's finger was inserted into the liquid and a change occurred. One could see the liquid suddenly wiggling intensely. After which, it firmly winded around Xiao Yan's finger. It wrapped around his entire hand in an instant. Hiss! The dark golden liquid wrapped around Xiao Yan's right hand. An intense pain that could not be contained was suddenly transmitted from his palm. This caused Xiao Yan's face to twitch. After being wrapped by the dark golden liquid, his hand actually began to wiggle strangely. The sound of bone being pressed together that was also emitted. My hand is about to be crippled. The squeezing feeling became increasingly intense. Just when Xiao Yan thought that his hand would be squeezed until it was shattered, the intense pain suddenly came to a halt. The dark golden liquid also flowed into his hand like floodwater and swiftly disappeared. Xiao Yan did not even have the time to be stunned by this strange scene before his head suddenly shook at this moment. A golden light vaguely surfaced in his eyes. A low and deep muttered sound was also emitted from his mouth. This is Great Heaven Creation Palm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 346. Chapter 1275. Saint, Sheng Jie, Jiao Hua, Bang. An explosion sounded deep within Xiao Yan's mind. His soul also trembled intensely at this moment. Immediately, his gaze gradually became blurry. By the time he recovered, he discovered that he was within a mysterious realm. This space was not very big and there was also not the slightest life force within this empty space. Xiao Yan's eyes swept around a little. After which, they suddenly paused on a certain spot in the empty space. An extremely ordinary figure was standing with his hands behind him at that spot. Xiao Yan was basically unable to sense even the slightest aura or do qi trace from that body. That manner was as though he was just a normal person. However, this feeling that he got from his sight caused Xiao Yan's heart to become increasingly grave. How could an ordinary person appear in this kind of mysterious place? If he guessed correctly, this figure should be the true owner of the remain. This place should be a memory space that is hidden within the Do technique. This figure is also not a genuine elite Do Sheng. Instead, it is merely a memory fragment of his. Xiao Yan fell into a deep thought as he looked at the figure. With his current experience, he would naturally not be surprised. After musing for a moment, he clearly grasped this human figure's background. It was just as Xiao Yan had expected. This figure did not glance towards Xiao Yan. Soon after the latter entered this realm, a calm water-like voice slowly resounded within this space. Great Heaven Creation Palm, TN Class Low-Level Do Technique. It is created by this saint by using all of my strength to merge 100 Do techniques. This palm technique pays attention to the meaning of creation, using a palm to break the sky and strength to shatter everything. Xiao Yan's eyes became increasingly bright when he heard that calm voice that seemed to speak to itself. TN Class Do Technique, exceeding the ordinary and surpassing a saint. By being able to obtain the secret hidden by this saint in the bones, you can be considered a person of affinity. Since you have obtained the bones, your hand should have been refined by the golden spirit saliva. Remember, the Great Heaven Creation Palm can only be successfully used by a hand that has been refined. Otherwise, one will definitely encounter a backlash. Xiao Yan was startled when he heard this. He immediately fell into a deep thought. That intense pain from earlier was actually that so-called golden spirit saliva refining his own palm. It is indeed worthy of being a TN Class Do techniques. It actually requires this process in order to obtain a complete inheritance. Xiao Yan shook his head in surprise. If he skipped that refinement step, he would likely not dare to unleash this so-called Great Heaven Creation Palm even if he successfully learned it. The Great Heaven Creation Palm possessed the strength of creation. After that calm voice slowly sounded, a faint light suddenly erupted from the figure's body. That body also swiftly turned transparent. It revealed an extremely clear vein root within it. A trace of dark golden energy shuttled through these veins and outlined an extremely strange vein root. This is the meridian root of the Great Heaven Creation Palm. A joy suddenly surged within Xiao Yan's eyes when he saw this scene. He hurriedly focused his mind and firmly remembered the root of the energy within his mind. That vein root was circulated a couple of times before it slowly faded away. Fortunately, this circulation route had already been firmly remembered in Xiao Yan's mind. After the vein root faded away, the light glow within the figure's body also once again disappeared. A dark golden light slowly brightened. Immediately, a hand was swung out and it heavily landed on the empty space. Bang! The palm fell and a frightening energy immediately swept out like a storm. An enormous black-colored light circle was once again formed under that human figure's palm. The light circle was formed. After which, it scattered apart with lightning-like speed. The surrounding space appeared like a glass that had been forcefully scattered. It fell apart almost instantly. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air as he looked at the black light circle that rapidly spread apart within his eyes. He did not reveal any expression of panic. Instead, he pointed towards the figure within the dark black light circle from a great distance and bowed. Destined person, remember this saint name, Saint Jiao Hua, creation. A faint voice suddenly resounded within Xiao Yan's mind like a thunder. The figure also became gradually faded within the dark black light circle. Finally, it completely vanished. The final figure that an elite Do Sheng had left behind in this world disappeared in this manner. Xiao Yan nodded quietly. He allowed the dark black light circle to charge over and shatter his body. Xiao Yan's tightly shut eyes were suddenly opened in his room. A turbid breath slowly followed his throat before being exhaled. He muttered, "Saint Jiao Hua." Xiao Yan muttered a little before he completely awakened a moment later. His eyes looked towards his right hand and saw that this right hand currently possessed a vague dark golden light that appeared like metal. Sinking his mind into his body, Xiao Yan began to roam around his right hand. Immediately, he was surprised to discover that a couple of extremely covert veins in the interior of the right hand seemed to have been opened. These veins were connected to each other, appearing like a strange cycle. It appeared exceptionally mysterious when one looked at it. Xiao Yan recalled a little as he watched these couple looping of tiny veins. Only then did he discover that the path which the vein was looping around were at the most critical positions. In other words, without the direction from these few looping veins, any attempt to forcefully use the Great Heaven Creation Palm would only lead to the vast and mighty energy gathering at one's palm without being able to be released from one's body. It was like a bottle becoming increasingly bloated with air. It would sooner or later explode. At that time, the arm of the person unleashing it would likely be completely shattered. No wonder it said that only a palm that had been refined by the golden spiritual saliva can use it. It is actually because of this. Xiao Yan felt a sudden understanding within his heart. He immediately sighed quietly. He was indeed worthy of being an elite Do Sheng of a certain generation. He was actually able to create such a mysterious method. There were tens of thousands of meridians within one's body with endless number of secretive veins. It was not an easy matter to open a useful vein. However, I wonder if I can use this great heaven creation palm now? Xiaoyan's eyes vaguely contained a heat dancing within it. This palm's might was something that he had personally witnessed within the ancient remains back then. Quite a number of experts present had died under this palm. If it was not because Xiaoyan's group had fled quickly, it was likely that the result would be difficult to predict. Xiaoyan's heart greatly coveted the great heaven creation palm at that day. Now, he had luckily managed to learn it. How could his heart calm down? Rubbing his hands together, Xiaoyan leapt down from the bed and stood straight within the room. He inhaled a deep breath of air. The dou qi within his body followed the memory path within his mind and began to slowly rotate. The dou qi was circulated extremely slowly initially. Moreover, the path was also quite complicated. Quite a number of mistakes occurred during this period of time. Fortunately, Xiaoyan reacted quickly. Once he discovered that the path was wrong, he would immediately scatter his dou qi. This prevented him from suffering any injuries. After experiencing a couple of failures, Xiaoyan also gradually became familiar with it. An hour or so later, he had finally successfully completely a vein circulation. The moment that he completed the circulation, Xiaoyan's arm trembled suddenly. A dark golden light suddenly surged. Immediately, he was stunned to discover that the dou qi within his body was flowing like floodwater. The direction that it was flowing towards was his right hand. What a frightening dou qi exhaustion! Even with Xiaoyan's strength, his expression involuntarily changed when he sensed the rate at which his dou qi was exhausted. This Tn-class dou technique was actually a glutton that was not full no matter how one fed it. With an increasing amount of dou qi gathered on Xiaoyan's palm, the dark golden light also became increasingly strong. A moment later, a black glow finally appeared in the middle of the golden light when it had soared to the limit. A frightening suction force surged out the moment the black glow appeared. The surrounding dark golden light was swallowed into the black glow within the blink of an eye. It also gradually became bigger at this moment. What a terrifying energy! After having personally used this great heaven creation palm, Xiaoyan finally completely comprehended its terror. Immediately, his expression changed a little. This was the Falling Star Pavilion. There were elders and disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion around his room. If this palm was to be released, it was likely that no life would remain within a 100-meter radius. Some cold sweat surfaced on Xiaoyan's forehead when he sensed this. He inhaled a couple of deep breaths and forcefully halted the exhaustion of dou qi within his body. He immediately clenched his palm slightly. That peach-sized black glow shook for a moment when his hand was clenched. Finally, it slowly became pale under Xiaoyan's shocked eyes. It eventually turned into dou qi once again and surged into Xiaoyan's body. Xiaoyan heaved a long sigh of relief as he sensed the enormous dou qi that once again recovered within his body. He rubbed the cold sweat on his forehead, raised his right hand and looked over with stunned eyes. A moment later, he parted his mouth and laughed. This was because the thing that he needed to practice this great heaven creation palm was already preset by that Saint Zhao Hua. Hence, the speed at which he mastered this Tn-class dou technique had basically far exceeded the other dou techniques. It must be said that this was indeed a great blessing. Great heaven creation palm. Ha ha. I wonder how interesting old ghost Jai Xing's expression will be should he see this dou technique the next time I meet him? Xiaoyan smiled slightly after gently rubbing his right hand together. A cold glint flickered within his dark black eyes. This great heaven creation palm will be the sickle that would take the life of the old ghost the next time they meet. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.